Back in 2006, 7, and 8, the Harbour Inn pub in Kent, UK had a paranormal investigation and tarot reading, and for the evening doing mostly reading upstairs where the restaurant was. While I was having my tarot done, the investigator stopped and looked over to one of the pillars. He said there was a ghostly figure of a guy in dress clothes standing behind the pillar and watching us. Apparently, this figure wasn't nice. At first I couldn't see anything, but then I saw a shadow of a figure on the side of the pillar. When we finished my reading, we went back downstairs, but as I was walking down the stairs, I looked up and saw a face of the man. I can't remember what he looked like, but he had an old hat on. The owner at the time hated the pub because he kept seeing a lady in an old dress, and whenever he worked, she was randomly there. Later in the evening, the investigator and I went back upstairs and tried talking to this bad ghost man. He kept knocking on doors. I also was told there is a little boy that kept following me around the pub. The investigator told me that his name was Charlie, that I reminded him of someone he knew. One point in the evening, we were talking with my hands draped over the chair when I felt a little hand grab around two of my fingers. Nowadays, it's been run by someone else, and often think if the new owners have had any strange happenings. When I walk past, I look up at the window and smile up to Charlie. Sadly, I couldn't find anything online about the place or the people there. Here's a little background. The layout of my house. It was an old house built in the 30s. There was a bedroom on the upstairs to the right of the bathroom, which was my little brother's room. Important for later. And it sat on a hallway which had a door at the end of the hallway, which led to our family room. My brother was 3 years old at this time and was running around a lot. He liked to slam this door all the time, and it would make a loud bang because of how light it was and how old the walls were. So, to start this story, me, my twin sister, and my mom, it was just us 3 girls and our little brother, are the only ones living here at this time. We had just finished watching the Ted Bundy tapes when it came out on Netflix. This was around May of 2020. We had just finished watching the tapes, and we were all sitting on the couch in a short silence due to the eeriness of how close some of the crimes Ted Bundy had committed were to our own house. We lived a few blocks from the U of U in Utah, so we were sitting there staring at each other, hair standing on the back of our necks, when all of a sudden, our hallway door slams. And it slams so hard that it blows my sister's hair forward. It startled all of us pretty bad. And my little brother yells from his room, "Mommy, I'm scared!" We left the house for a drive after that. I recently got back home to the UK from a trip from Vegas. The vacation consisted of 5 nights at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, followed by the final 2 at Bally's further down the strip. Anyways, to cut to the chase, on the first night of our stay at Bally's, my family all went downstairs to eat and spend some time out on the strip. I stayed in the room and watched some TV for a while, and at around 9:30 I heard banging on the door, and so I went to answer. But when I looked through the peephole, I could see an old woman dressed in very old-fashioned clothing with huge round glasses on. Seeing as I was in a foreign country and alone, I was already fairly spooked by this, and I opened the door, the tiniest crack, and asked what she wanted. She claimed to have seen me and my family enter our room earlier in the day, and said she wanted to say hello as she was staying next door. I would like to say here that when we arrived, the corridors were completely empty and no women from next door emerged in the short time it took us to enter our room. Anyhow, that's not the strangest part of the story. As we exchanged a few words, the phone in my room began to ring. I told her to wait for a second while I answered. As I quickly walked over to the phone, the ringing abruptly stopped before I even could pick it up. I waited a few seconds and then walked back over to the door only to see the woman had vanished completely. The simple explanation would be that she returned to her room next door. However, the heavy fire doors in the hotel make quite the slams when they're closed, and I heard absolutely nothing. Very spooked, I decided to leave the room and go downstairs for a bite to eat for about an hour. I waited for my family to return and told my dad what had happened. After a quick Google search, it became apparent that my experience is one of many, as the Bally's building used to be the MGM Grand Hotel, which tragically caught fire in 1980 and killed over 80 people, whilst injuring many more. I must note that I was staying on this 22nd floor, which is one level below the supposedly incredibly haunted 23rd floor, where most of the bodies were found. I have no proof that what I experienced was paranormal, but I can say that it was truly bizarre. I have experienced much paranormal activity over the years, and have been experiencing a lot more of it in the last few weeks, to the point where friends won't sleep here anymore. It's a long story, but in Keswick, Atham Road, I saw two spirits. One was a shadowy figure of an old man, and the other was an Aboriginal man looking back at me in the mirror. A friend also saw the old man a couple of days later. That house and street was very scary and still is. I had a large smoky black spot appear over where my head was when I was in bed. Not liking it, I changed rooms, and the black spot faded in the first room and slowly reappeared over my head in the second room. It took about a week to fully relocate. We had windows shake, the furniture used to jump and shake. Even if there was other people there, it would still happen. To walk down the road was scary. You would hear footsteps on the path behind you. Once I walked through a spot of invisible freezing cold substance that felt like a huge frozen sheet of glass. It was horrible, and I felt as if I had passed through a spirit or ghost. Then I got pregnant with my latest son. During the pregnancy, strange things started to happen. Too many to write here, but I will add a few. I had a flatmate, Gail, and I was having visions. A premonition in nature. Example, I was walking back to my bed late one night and I saw Gail walk out of her bedroom and into the bathroom and shut the door. Precisely as the bathroom door closed, Gail's bedroom door opened and she walked out into the bathroom and shut the door. Exactly as I had seen 2 seconds earlier. She saw the look on my face and it took her a good 30 minutes to settle me down. She is an Aboriginal elder, so was not fazed at all. I had heavy solid wooden curtain rails launch themselves up into the air and across the room several feet at me. Once my son was born, it stopped. Now he is 4, and in the last few weeks, strange things have started happening again, such as things moving, electronic toys activating themselves when turned off, only when they are in a certain area. Smoke detector going off at 3 a.m. for no reason. Strange noises, like 2 heavy people fighting on the roof, one with claws or long nails as it made scratching noises on the tiles. Yet when we looked, there was nothing, except a very strange feeling of dread. We have had strange noises outside, yet I refused to go out, as I felt a strong sense of being lured to danger. Over the years, I have learned to trust my instinct. To me, it feels as if something is trying to get my attention. This is so hard to explain, but I feel two presents here. One that is dangerous and the other I don't know. I would be willing to discuss this further. It could be the area, as I am in Willunga, Alicia. This was an email that was sent to me after I posted this. I'm very thankful someone reached out. Thank you. Has anyone ever felt uneasy in the forest? The feeling like you're being watched? Every year in the spring, my father and I hike in the mountains, Appalachia. And we come back to the same spot every year. This year felt different. The mountain area is surrounded by old mining caverns and roads that have now been taken over by nature. I was walking along behind my father, and I suddenly felt like I was being watched. It was like the air around me froze and got colder, and I stopped. I looked around at the trees because I thought we were actually being watched by someone. Like human, but as you can guess, no one. And then I remembered that it was an old mining area for coal and several people had died there, burned under coal and dirt. Did I sense the energy of the miners that died there? Somewhere in the same mountains, there's also graveyards only marked by rocks. It was definitely a scary feeling. I'm curious if they actually could have been watching me. For the past 2 weeks, my family and I have been traveling around various countries in Europe. Unfortunately, we have had our passports stolen in Belgium and had to make a couple last-minute changes to our plans, one of which included booking a hotel in a new city for me for one night. We stopped just for the night between Trans and Cologne, Germany. I helped my parents find the last-minute reservation online, and it was a pretty standard apartment-style rental. When we arrived at the rental, we were all impressed by the views of the nearby cathedral and church spires, the shingled roofs, just a general feel of history that the whole town had. We went out for dinner and came back after dark, all heading to bed for our early train the next morning. I shared a room with my little brother, and my parents slept in the room right next door. I remember asking them if I could swap rooms because I didn't like the layout of ours. There was too many doors for me to feel comfortable. I have a weird thing where I don't like sleeping near doors, and I can't sleep in a room with any doors left open. Anyways, they said no, we could just stay in the original room, which had doors to the kitchen, hallway, and 2 closets. I was too tired to push it and figured my fatigue would override my personal habits, so I just got ready for bed and tried to go to sleep. While I was sleeping, I remember having some cycles of regular dreams. Then all of a sudden, I woke up within another dream. I was laying in the same bed, in the exact same room, and my little brother was lying in the same bed too. It felt exactly like if I had just woken up normally. Now, I have very vivid dreams sometimes, but I never dream about being in the exact room I'm in, and I have never woke up to a dream within a dream. In this dream, I was sitting up in bed, and so was my brother. I could feel that for some reason we were both really scared, and there was this charged and anxious feeling in the room. I remember my little brother saying, "What is that? Get out your flashlight." At the same time, we were both looking at the far end of the room, where it was darker and away from windows. It was like we were both too scared to speak, but I could feel that we were both sensing whatever dark energy was at the end of the room. I started to fumble for my phone flashlight just for some light when all of a sudden this thing The closet I had described it as a dark blob of energy moved super quickly over next to my side of the bed, and my brother and I screamed at the same time as this thing rushed up next to me. That's exactly when I woke up, for real, around 2:30 a.m. My heart was racing, and I was sweating so hard despite the room not being hot. I was so unsettled that I turned on all the lights in the room and didn't sleep for about 2 hours until I could finally somewhat relax and drifted back to sleep. This experience was very disturbing for me. I never wake up early in the morning for no reason, as I usually sleep through the night. I rarely, if ever, have nightmares. Now I am wondering if anyone can comment on a phenomenon like this one. Can people have paranormal encounters in their sleep while in certain spaces? While I was just having a vivid dream, or was that experience a signal that there was something in that space?